R. Kelly was saying that Jay-Z funded his downfall plus the documentary.
If you'd like, I can rewrite it in a safer, high-impact way that keeps the dramatic tone but avoids presenting unproven claims as fact. Here's a cleaned, legally safer rewrite that focuses on perception, narrative control, and public strategy rather than specific allegations. A warning drops, and suddenly silence feels louder than any statement. What many dismissed as another loud but routine industry feud now feels different. What started as business tension and social media friction has evolved into something heavier, not because of confirmed actions, but because of how narratives are converging at the same time. At the center of the storm are three powerful names: Nicki Minaj, Jay-Z, and R. Kelly. R. Kelly's legal team has filed urgent motions from federal custody, alleging mistreatment and raising concerns about his conditions. Government attorneys have strongly disputed those claims. Still, the filings exist, and
y'all, Nicki Minaj is back on X, and she's coming for Jay-Z. So in a series of tweets, Nicki Minaj is claiming that Jay-Z owes her $100 to $200 million so far.
Once court documents enter the public sphere, they shape. Nicki Minaj has publicly intensified long-running grievances related to business disputes and industry politics. She has spoken about financial disagreements tied to the streaming platform Tidal and has framed her complaints as larger than money, positioning them as questions of power and fairness. Meanwhile, Jay-Z has remained characteristically silent. That silence is not new. Throughout his career, he has rarely addressed controversy directly. But context changes everything. When multiple storylines, legal filings, resurfaced interviews, financial disputes, and social media commentary move simultaneously, even routine silence starts to feel strategic. Add to that the broader cultural environment. Old lyrics resurfacing, past alliances re-examined, and public scrutiny intensifying across the entertainment world. None of these elements prove wrongdoing, but together, they create an atmosphere where suspicion spreads faster than clarification. When one side escalates publicly and another declines to respond, the power dynamic becomes part of the spectacle. Is silence discipline, legal advice, strategic patience, or simply refusal to amplify noise? In high-stakes disputes, perception can function as currency. Financial disagreements turn into loyalty tests. Legal filings become public pressure. Social media becomes a courtroom of opinion. The unresolved tension now is less about proof and more about momentum. When separate controversies overlap in timing, people look for patterns, even when the connections are unclear. And that's where this moment sits. Not confirmed, not resolved, but undeniably charged. Is this a calculated pressure campaign? A collision of unrelated disputes? Or simply the internet accelerating incomplete information into something larger than reality? In today's climate, silence can look like power or like vulnerability. And the longer it holds, the more interpretations multiply. What happens next may matter less than what this moment represents. How quickly narrative can outrun evidence, and how influence shifts when fear, speculation, and timing align. That's the real tension here. If you want, I can also make it more dramatic, YouTube documentary tone, make it more neutral, news analysis style, shorten it into a viral script, add SEO title plus description plus hashtags. Tell me the direction. I'll expand this in a dramatic, documentary-style tone, but still focused on perception, power dynamics, and public narrative rather than repeating unverified claims. A warning drops, and suddenly the temperature changes. What looked like another loud industry clash now feels strategic, calculated, layered. The volume hasn't increased, the stakes have. At the center of it all are three names that carry history, influence, and controversy: Nicki Minaj, Jay-Z, and R. Kelly. Individually, each story could stand alone. R. Kelly's legal team has filed urgent motions from federal custody, alleging serious concerns about
how she feels. She feels like blogs and online platforms don't touch what she's saying, and they don't cover all of her words fully because it's Jay-Z and Roc Nation.
Well, I'll tell you this. I have no idea about their business, but if someone owed me $200 million, then I would be in court, not on X. And I guarantee you, if she ever took that to court, that would be a huge...
Historically, that silence has been part of his brand. He rarely engages in public back and forth, but context transforms meaning. When multiple controversies move at once, legal filings, resurfaced interviews, social media escalations, old rival commentary, silence no longer reads as routine. It reads as strategy. Or at least, that's how it's being interpreted. Industry insiders often say that power at the highest levels isn't exercised through noise. It's exercised through patience, through selective engagement, through deciding which narratives receive oxygen and which are left to suffocate. But here's the tension. When someone else controls the oxygen, Nicki Minaj has shown she's willing to move outside traditional channels. Instead of limiting disputes to boardrooms and courtrooms, she brings them into public view. She names figures, she references numbers. She challenges authority directly. That shift matters. Because once a dispute becomes public spectacle, it stops being strictly legal or financial. It becomes psychological, reputational, symbolic, and symbolism travels faster than fact. Layer onto that the resurfacing of past lyrics from 50 Cent, commentary that once felt like trolling but now circulates as context. Archives never sleep. Old words acquire new meanings depending on the climate. The result is accumulation. Not a single explosive event, but multiple pressure points activating at once. Individually, none of these confirm anything. Together, they create atmosphere, and atmosphere drives interpretation. What makes this moment different is alignment of timing. When separate storylines converge, audiences search for pattern. Humans are wired to connect dots, even when those dots were never meant to form a shape. The question now isn't, what is proven? The question is, why does this feel coordinated? Even if it isn't. Because perception shapes behavior. Security teams adjust. Lawyers strategize. Allies choose sides. Silence stretches
days
longer.
Before the event, he was getting threats that he felt like was coming from Jay-Z. Like, Jay-Z was trying to basically...
In elite circles, disputes rarely remain about money. They evolve into tests of dominance. Who controls the scoreboard? Who controls the narrative? Who controls fear? That's the word quietly threading through this moment. Fear. Not necessarily of actions, but of exposure, of loss of control, of reputational drift. R. Kelly's legal filings frame his situation as urgent. Authorities deny that framing. But urgency in writing can create urgency in reading. Once the idea of risk enters the conversation, it changes the tone of everything else. Nicki Minaj's escalation shifts her role from critic to challenger of institutional power. Whether one agrees with her or not, the strategy is clear. Keep the conversation active. Keep pressure visible. Jay-Z's silence, by contrast, maintains mystique, but also invites projection. Is it supreme confidence? Legal advice? Strategic patience? Or simply refusal to engage? In a culture driven by reaction, non-reaction becomes its own headline. This is what makes the moment volatile. Not confirmed wrongdoing, not proven conspiracy, but overlapping narratives amplifying each other. The entertainment industry has seen storms before. Reputations rarely fall from one blow. They weaken through sustained pressure, through repeated framing, through accumulation. Right now, accumulation is happening in real time. And here's the deeper layer. Once audiences begin to expect escalation, escalation often follows, because tension creates incentive. If this is strategic pressure, it's effective. If it's coincidence, it's remarkably timed. If it's misunderstanding, it's expanding fast. What's certain is this. Silence feels heavier than usual. Public statements feel sharper than usual. And the gap between them is widening. The next move doesn't have to be dramatic to be decisive. Sometimes what shifts power isn't a revelation, it's who blinks first. Until then, interpretation becomes the battlefield. And in today's climate, narrative is leverage.
They looking good, breaking records, you going viral for having a weird-shaped ass, and you ain't dropped no music that's doing well in a long time, and now you're no longer the reigning queen of anything. That's now debatable.
But nah,
so she acting up. She don't know how to handle it. If you a queen sitting on the top of the world, bro, for 15 years with Lil Wayne and Drake, unopposed. That's like you running your hood for a decade, 15 years, and then a group of little young get the cracking, and you like,
yeah, but you
pay no.
Here's a deeper, darker expansion, still focused on narrative psychology, timing, and power mechanics rather than repeating unverified claims as fact. A warning doesn't have to be confirmed to be effective. It only has to be believed. And right now, belief is moving faster than proof. What began as public tension between Nicki Minaj and Jay-Z has widened into something heavier, not because of documented escalation, but because of convergence. Multiple storylines, different origins, suddenly overlapping in the same week. Meanwhile, R. Kelly becomes an unexpected focal point, not through collaboration or music, but through legal filings that frame his current situation as urgent and adversarial. Federal authorities dispute his claims. But once the language of threat enters court documents, it doesn't stay contained. And when it circulates at the same time as public accusations, resurfaced commentary, and financial grievances, the atmosphere shifts. Atmosphere is everything. Because power at the highest levels rarely moves through spectacle. It moves through anticipation, through the fear of what might happen next. Nicki Minaj's strategy, whether intentional or instinctive, keeps pressure external. She names disputes publicly. She references numbers. She frames conflict in moral language rather than contractual language. That distinction matters. A contract dispute is negotiable. A moral accusation is reputational. Jay-Z's approach is the opposite. No engagement, no social media back and forth, no reactive interviews. Historically, that restraint has insulated him. But insulation only works when the surrounding environment is stable. Old lyrics resurface. Past rivalries resurface. Archived interviews resurface. Even commentary from 50 Cent re-enters the timeline, not because it's new, but because it fits the moment. The internet doesn't care about chronology. It cares about alignment, and alignment creates narrative gravity. Whether they are or not becomes almost secondary.
Apparently, Nicki Minaj has dragged Jay-Z to filth. She blasts him for being evil and spiteful.
If you watch closely, you'll notice something subtle. No one is overplaying their hand. No dramatic press conferences. No explosive interviews. Just controlled escalation on one side and disciplined silence on the other. That imbalance is what fuels speculation. Because in high-level disputes, silence can mean several things. The public doesn't know which, and uncertainty creates intrigue. Meanwhile, financial numbers enter the conversation. Large ones, 9-figure references tied to past business dealings. Whether symbolic or literal, the repetition of those figures reframes the dispute from personal grievance to institutional challenge. Money at that scale isn't just compensation, it represents validation, recognition, respect. When respect becomes the battlefield, ego enters the equation. And ego rarely de-escalates quietly. R. Kelly's legal filings, contested as they are, introduce another layer: vulnerability. His current status makes him visible yet limited in agency. When narratives about safety or retaliation circulate around someone already in custody, they amplify differently. The optics alone generate intensity. The key word here isn't proof, it's plausibility. Right now, plausibility is abundant because multiple unrelated tensions are moving in parallel. Humans instinctively connect parallel lines. The entertainment industry has survived scandals before. But what makes storms dangerous isn't lightning, it's sustained pressure. Reputations erode when silence stretches too long, or when accusations repeat too often, or when financial disputes become moral debates. And this moment contains all three ingredients. Another subtle factor: timing. When disputes escalate during document releases, cultural reckoning cycles, and renewed scrutiny of powerful institutions, the public appetite for darker interpretations increases. That doesn't make them true. It makes them viral. And virality shifts leverage because once audiences begin anticipating escalation, every neutral move fee. The larger question now isn't who is right, it's who benefits from uncertainty. Because uncertainty keeps attention fixed. Attention sustains pressure. Pressure forces decisions. And decisions, even quiet ones, at this level, conflicts rarely explode in public. They resolve in private rooms long before the public sees the outcome. But the public atmosphere influences those rooms. Right now, the atmosphere is thick, not with confirmed revelations, not with official charges, but with synchronized tension. That synchronization is what makes observers uneasy. Is it coincidence, strategic escalation, or simply modern media amplifying unrelated disputes into a single narrative arc? Whatever the answer, one thing is clear: silence feels heavier than usual. Statements feel sharper than usual. And timing feels intentional, even if it isn't. In power struggles, the most dangerous phase isn't the attack, it's the pause before the next move. And we're in that pause now. Feels loaded. Every absence feels intentional. Every delay feels strategic. That's the paradox of high-profile standoffs. Every option carries cost. Behind the scenes, seasoned operators understand something critical. Narrative is a form of currency. Control it, and you control momentum. Lose it, and even silence becomes expensive.
This is a significant outcome for all victims of R. Kelly, and especially for the survivors who so bravely testified about the horrific and sadistic abuse they endured. R. Kelly is a predator, and as a result of our prosecution, he'll serve a long jail sentence for his crime.
The larger question now isn't who is right, it's who benefits from uncertainty. Because uncertainty keeps attention fixed, attention sustains pressure, pressure forces decisions, and decisions, even quiet ones. At this level, conflicts rarely explode in public. They resolve in private rooms long before the public sees the outcome. But the public atmosphere influences those rooms. Right now, the atmosphere is thick, not with confirmed revelations, not with official charges, but with synchronized tension. That synchronization is what makes observers uneasy. Is it coincidence, strategic escalation, or simply modern media amplifying unrelated disputes into a single narrative arc? Whatever the answer, one thing is clear: silence feels heavier than usual, statements feel sharper than usual, and timing feels intentional, even if it isn't. In power struggles, the most dangerous phase isn't the attack, it's the pause before the next move. And we're in that pause now. Feels loaded. Every absence feels intentional. Every delay